Hey everyone, Sean here, back with another episode of Underground Comic Review. And today I'll be taking a look at Bill Griffith's Yow Comics #1, starring Zippy the Pinhead. But first, I'll give you a bit of history on Zippy. Zippy the Pinhead was created by Bill Griffith and was partially based on the microcephalics from the 1932 movie Freaks. He was originally just a foil to Bill's other character, Mr. Toad, but Zippy quickly became his main focus. The first Zippy story was published in Real Pulp #1 in 1970 and began running weekly in the Berkeley Barb in 1976. In 1985, Zippy was picked up for daily syndication by the San Francisco Examiner, and Bill Griffith has continued his Zippy strips daily to this day. Go check out zippythepinhead.com if you want them emailed to you daily for free. Zippy is definitely a pretty large pop culture figure, with his quote, "Are we having fun yet?" being ripped off quite frequently. Carol Burnett even tried to claim it as her own. He also appeared on the Berlin Wall. The piece ended up being auctioned off for 10 grand US. Alright, now for the comic. Yow #1 is a collection of Zippy stories written between 1977 and 1979. The cover is a great intro to Zippy, with him in front of a Carnival Freak Show tent proudly saying, "I'm Zippy, who are you?" All the while an ice cream cone melts away in his hand. At the bottom of the cover there is a perfect catchphrase for the book which reads, "All zany, all zingy, all Zippy." Also little Lulu can be found in the lower left hand corner. There's really nice colors here too, which suit Zippy's happy, bright personality. On the inside cover is a first comic of the book, which is Some Introductory Remarks, or How to Have Fun with Zippy. It gives a short taste of what's to come, with Zippy spouting out non sequiturs from a piece of paper such as, "The ammunition was wet, it was a tragedy," and "Zippy represents a kind of spiritual shoplifting." Oh, on page 27 he interviews a meatball, with the latter actually being somewhat true, as he does try to interview a meatball later in the book. The last 3 panels I really enjoy, where Zippy says, "Did I tell you I left my pants in San Francisco? High on a hill. They wait for me. I hope." I really enjoy the subtle background change to a busy street, and the way he wears his hat and his smoking gives a sudden dark dramatic tone. At the bottom of the page there's an advertisement for a cool Zippy shirt that was available at the time. It also mentions that they have a baseball version with polka dot sleeves that sounds absolutely killer. The next one is titled A Dope in High Places. It starts with Zippy at the Pussycat Ranch outside of Las Vegas. He appears to be a janitor. One of the working girls tells Zippy that she's out of coke and to go get her a gram. Next you get a taste of how Zippy's mind works as he turns the word into bram, then groom, then broom, which makes him realize that he has to clean the room. After a bit of mopping and pondering about how much he likes his dentist, he hears a man loudly complaining and immediately assumes it's the glass that's near the wall. On closer inspection though, he realizes it's people in the wall. He begins to listen in because it's better than mopping, which I would have to agree with. You then find out it's a crooked politician who's spilling all the beans about every illegal activity he does to one of the girls, who is looking worse for wear, I might add. Zippy then hears something about a mess, so he hurries over to the room to clean it up in a hurry. The girl is just leaving the room as Zippy enters. He tells the man, Mr. Lufkin is his name, that he just heard some good stories. Mr. Lufkin hears this and fears that Zippy might ruin his career with his info, so he offers him a job so he can keep track of him. Now that Zippy is in tow, Mr. Lufkin's luck greatly diminishes as Zippy proceeds to accidentally ruin his life, from blabbing to people to the Senate about money drops to letting his dogs loose, who end up eating 2 acres of his choicest weed. And in the end playing a tape for everyone that Mr. Lufkin was using to blackmail people in Long Island, because he thought it was a reggae tape that he was playing for everyone at his birthday party. He does save his life at 2 points though. The first by taking a bullet from Mr. Lufkin, accidentally of course. He was just pretending to be a 49 Studebaker. He takes it right off his forehead with no more than an itchy head too. Shows how tough he is. He also drinks a mint julep that was poisoned with a lethal dose of STP that was meant for Mr. Lufkin, which only makes him feel in tip-top shape of course. The artwork is fantastic in this story, with the highlight being his cityscapes and the Mardi Gras costumes. It's a bit long after multiple readings, but it does give you time to get to know Zippy better if this is your first introduction to him, which in turn makes the following comics all the better. The next story is a wordless one and is entitled Zippy's Day. I absolutely love the artwork in this one, with a heavy cross-hatching, and I think he makes great use of the bigger panels. In the story, Zippy wakes up, eats breakfast, goes on a skateboard ride down to the donut shop and tries to work behind the counter until he's kicked out. Now he's off to the casino end of town where he tries his luck and comes up big. Now with his dough in hand, he's headed up to the pawn shop to buy what else but a pair of binoculars. Now he decides to sightsee. Oh, close I guess. Which consists of a mud bathhouse and a pair of bloomers. After that he's headed to the music shop to buy an accordion, which he plays badly on the street while walking home. Now that he's home, he has another meal, this time consisting of everyone's favorite, ding-dongs and taco sauce. After that he's off to bed to watch some TV till he falls asleep. It ends with a shot of Zippy's Mr. Toad toy, which leads perfectly into our next story, which is The Toad Family and the Pinhead Family. In this story, the Toad family live above the Pinheads and can't stand their awful racket they constantly make. They go from putting vibrators against a wall to blaring warped records, to dropping chairs on their own feet and yelping, to riding motorcycles. Then they suddenly decide to leave. Toad can't believe that they aren't making any noise and listens intently to the floor. When the Pinheads do return, they actually decide to take part in hilariously quiet activities such as listening to barely audible classical music and organizing bug collections. Mr. Toad then thinks he heard a noise and he just can't take it anymore. Obviously driven mad by the noises, he takes a sledgehammer and breaks right through the floor with him going through too. I like this one quite a bit with all the ridiculous things to do to make noise, like playing the game Throwing Furniture. Now for the next piece, Bill Griffiths gives us pertinent points about pinheads, where he gives some fascinating facts, such as this one where he says that San Francisco's Transamerica Pyramid Building has become a mecca for micros, as there are even microcephalic conventions and workshops held there. Another mentions that two pinheads, Pippo and Zippo, from Coney Island earned $75 a week during the Depression and even owned their own car. But arguably most interesting is that the first widely exhibited circus sideshow pinhead, Zip the What Is It, whose real name was William Henry Jackson, has the same legal name and birth date as Bill Griffith's own great-grandfather. After that comes Time Out of Mind, where Zippy travels through space and time. All in his mind, of course. He travels from ancient Rome, where gladiators are fighting over a game of Scrabble, to an African dwarf tribe where the tribe is being attacked by a saber-toothed lion. Zippy then saves them, though, by what else but feeding it some borscht. After that, the tribesmen take him and drop him off in the very town Bill Griffiths himself grew up in, Levittown, which is a cliché's 50s suburb with identical houses and the idealized American family ever present. After a brief dinner, he goes outside and notices that the streets have turned to water, so now he's on a boat to ancient Japan, where he meets a wanderer who trades strange questions with even stranger answers to Zippy back and forth. Zippy also ends up making it to the Old West in Egypt before the story comes to a close with him falling into one of the museum's displays, subsequently breaking glass and getting kicked out of the museum. The art once again is great in this piece. I really enjoyed the transitions from one land to another, and there are lots of beautiful long shots showing off the scenery, which I really enjoy. The next story is entitled Leave Them Laughing. In it, Zippy is part of a mid-century freak show consisting of all your usual suspects, like your bearded lady, your midgets, your tattooed men, your dog-faced boys, and all that good stuff. In the story, the owner is misled in thinking that civic groups are on their ass, and that it would be best to get rid of the freaks. He doesn't want to do it though because he knows how hard it would be for most of them to find other types of work. But he figures he has to save the circus as a whole. So he has to go and tell them the sad news that the sideshow's closing down. They're all pretty upset, except for Zippy of course, who seems delighted that they now can become alcoholics. As if he was waiting for the opportune time. The rest of the story consists of Zippy trying to save the freaks and get back to the sideshow. Eventually he does, after finding them in a local museum of human oddities and flea circus, where they are being treated badly by the customers. In the end though, they all get to come back to the sideshow, but with one little twist that Zippy thought of, which is, in place of your conjoined twins and rubber men, you now have the bilingual switchboard operator, your overage airline stewardesses, your sunburned disc jockey, oh, and you can't forget the 14 Baptist ministers in Popeye suits. It's a good story with some stellar art. There's also a cameo of Bill Griffiths in one of the freak billboards. Unfortunately, I can't read what his talent is. On the inside cover, we now have None of This Planet with Zippy. In this one, Zippy is on Space Station Alpha. The astronauts on the station need someone to do some reconnaissance on one of Neptune's moons. So, of course, they choose Zippy. So he's off to the moon in a spaceship that can fly at light speed. He somehow makes it there despite not wanting to listen to the video instructions and wishing they would just play some old Zsa Zsa Gabor movies. Once there, what does he decide to do? He decides to do what else but start vacuuming. Come on, what would you do? Now on the back cover is our last one here, entitled Zippy the Pinhead. He likes the ladies. In this one, Zippy just wants to daydream while having his head buried in his girlfriend's cleavage. But alas, his girlfriend has to go do her act, so Zippy's left to his own devices. He goes for a bit of a stroll and hops on the Tunnel of Love Swan and finds himself a pair of size 9 capri pants. He figures they must belong to Sammy Davis Jr., who else would have left him on the ride. But as the swan starts to go into the tunnel, Zippy gets scared of the dark and hops into the boat behind him and hunkers down with a couple, and tells them everything will be fine if they can remember things about algebra or soccer or socialism. After that harrowing ordeal, his girlfriend's act is done and he's back to sticking his head in her butt. Oh, we also find out she's a pinhead. Well, that does it for Yow Comics number 1. I think this is a great book with beautiful art and some fantastic, interesting storytelling. If you like what you see, I say definitely pick it up. But if you're not sure and not ready to take the plunge, I say go check out the daily strips on zippythepinhead.com to make sure you're up for it. Because, you know, Zippy isn't for everyone, but he's for me. And I got a feeling if you're watching this, he's for you too. Well, that does it for another episode of Underground Comic Review. Hope you guys like what you saw. Please comment, like, and subscribe and all that kind of awesome stuff. I'll put another video up here to check out. That'll be another episode of Underground Comic Review. It'll be my review on strips 1, 2, and 4. Unfortunately, I don't own 3. Otherwise, I would have reviewed that too. But anyway, thanks again for watching, and Have a good one.